excited to be here with you. We are finishing up our Advent series. It is the week of love, and we're working through the maternal line of Jesus, and we're on the figure of Ruth this week. So I will ask you to pray along with me before we get started. God, I pray that your spirit would attend to me as I teach on your word, that the words might come out in a clear way, an understandable way, an impactful way. We don't want to just learn cool facts and be reminded of interesting things, but we want our hearts to be opened up in new and unexpected ways. So attune our ears of our hearts to you and the work that you would like to do this morning. So I pray all these things in your name, Jesus. Amen. All right, here we are. Like I said, we are both in the Advent week of love at Refuge Church, but also we've been working through the maternal line of Jesus. Now, there were some questions last week that came up about maternal line versus matrilineal line. If that is you, matrilineal would be Mary's ancestors, when indeed the genealogy in Matthew is Joseph's ancestors. However, we're looking at the female figures in that line, and so it's still maternal. Rather than matrilineal would be through Mary's line. So hopefully, for those of you who lost sleep with these questions, hopefully that's helpful. The story of Ruth might be more well known than the story of Bathsheba. The story is usually told in the following way. There's a famine in Israel, and so Naomi, and her family move to Moab to wait out the famine. There's not enough resources to go around. They go somewhere else where they feel they have better chances to survive. The men in the family marry two women, one each, Ruth and Arpa. However, both of those men die. Naomi's husband also dies. And then Naomi goes to move back to Israel, and she tells the women to go back to their homes, and Arpa says, okay, but Ruth says, no, I want to go with you. So they go, Ruth and her mother-in-law, Naomi. And then there's some kind of story when they arrive back at the hometown of Naomi, where Ruth engages in some kind of seduction. It depends on your interpretation, whether it's an entirely G-rated or PG-rated version of that story, or whether it's something much more. But they find someone who in their culture is their kinship redeemer, somebody who's supposed to help a family member who is in need, reclaim the resources in their land. So whether or not you go with the PG rendering or the spicier rendering, the story is still of this spunky, scrappy, cheeky women, right, who are hanging on by their fingernails and in some way take what is given to them and find some other way to flourish, because she is able to get Boaz, the kinship redeemer, to marry her and to provide for her and Naomi. So again, we have this theme of great loss, and then a lot of chutzpah, a lot of grit in our female protagonists that make up the line of Jesus. Boaz and Ruth live happily ever after in the scroll. It's a classic for women's ministries everywhere, but believe it or not, you're allowed to read it even if you're not a woman. Who knew? I want to retell a little bit of that story, and I want to center it more on Ruth. And that might sound odd because, sure, it feels like you're centering Ruth in the previous telling of that story, but try reading it with a little bit of a different framework. You can read the whole scroll if you would like to. It's not very long. So if we center from Ruth's perspective rather than the Israelites' perspective, she is a resident of Moab. The Jewish tradition says that she's actually from a royal line in the Moab. That may or may not be true. That's probably there in order to kind of stoke up King David's heritage. But she, no matter whose daughter she is, marries a refugee. She marries an immigrant. She marries someone who is escaping and seeking asylum from his homeland where there are not enough resources to go around. Rather than othering, hating, setting aside, disdaining this influx of new folks who need resources, resources which are scarce, rather than telling them to go fend for themselves. Ruth, by marrying them, welcomes them into her land, right? She's, instead of saying, nope, I'm royal, nope, I'm going to marry some of my own people, no, I'm frustrated with your presence, she instead marries her husband. Then, poof, her new husband dies. That's a little bit almost cheeky in the text because the names of the sons in Hebrew mean like diseased one and fainting one. So it's definitely something you see coming when you're reading it in the Hebrew. But this is her chance. In Near Eastern ancient culture, you can just go back to your dad's house and he will arrange a new marriage for you, because your land rights are very tenuous, as they're going to be in this story. And so it's in your best interest if you join a new household. And that's what we see Arpa do. And this is Ruth's chance to say, okay, I stepped out, I was welcoming, I married a refugee. It didn't pan out. I'm going to go back to safety and security and maybe marry somebody of my same status and my same estate, right? However, instead, she chooses not to do that, not to go for provision, not to go for security. She chooses to stay with her mother-in-law. And she says, not just, I don't know, I think I'm going to stay with you and see how things pan out. Like, your God seems kind of cool. She doesn't say that. She has this epic line in chapter 1, verses 16 through 18, which sometimes is read at weddings, which is an interesting choice. And she says the following: do not alight upon me to entreat me to abandon you or to turn back from you. For where you will walk, I will walk. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people, my people. Your God, my God. If you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. So may Yahweh do for me if death parts you and me. This is incredible faithfulness, which hasn't been particularly earned, right? Again, Naomi and her family show up coming to take limited resources. Moab is not really a really fertile area for agriculture, so presumably they didn't have a lot more than the Israelites did, and nevertheless they took her in. And yet, this is Ruth's response to Naomi, someone who is taken from her and brought loss along with her. And this response of Ruth displays the character of God, right? Just like Naomi to Ruth, we come as mortals before an immortal God, time-bound beings before the one who created time. We come with our many requests. And God enjoys working with us because that's his character, to be communal and want to wrap his kids into his story. But God certainly doesn't need us, right? He could put the world back together in the snap of his fingers if he wanted to overthrow our free will. And we are like Naomi, where we show up to God with our grief, with our loss, and our need, and for whatever reason, because he's our creator, perhaps because his very nature is love, his response to all of our need, all of our grief, all of our homelessness, is total faithfulness. He responds to us like Ruth responds to Naomi, where the world piles on terms and conditions, secret fine print, and well, if you do this, then I'll do this, tit for tat. God responds like Ruth. He says, you have asked for my help, now you're a part of my family. Do not even ask me to abandon you. I will never leave you nor turn away from you. Where you walk, I will walk. Where you sleep, I will sleep. Your people are my people, for I am your God. Not even death can part us, because I will follow you even there. I don't know know about you guys, but this kind of faithfulness reminds me of what the prophet Isaiah said in chapter 7. He said, "Behold, the young woman shall become pregnant and give birth to a son, and she will call his name Emmanuel," which literally means the with us God. God is the with us God. Jesus told us that the whole law could be summarized from one line in the book of Leviticus. It wasn't spontaneously from Jesus's brain. It is a quote from Leviticus when he says, "Love your neighbor as yourself." What's remarkable about that in the Hebrew is that there's three kinds of love. There's the neighborly love, which says, "I'm happy to lend you flour. We'll chat and hang out at the block party barbecue. We'll say hi when we cross paths. We'll hang out at a game. We enjoy each other." That kind of love, that word comes from the Hebrew word for neighbor. Re'ah is that neighborly love. After that, there's the committed love. Committed love is the you're in the hospital, I'm there. Breakup, I'm there. Lonely, I'm there. Promotion, I'm also there to celebrate you, right? It's not just pursuing the dark and dramatic. This is the ride or die type love, and this love is called ahava in Hebrew. The third kind of love in Hebrew is the sensual love, the kind of love that delights in and wants to abide in every detail of another person. That love is called dod. What is beautiful and shocking about the commandment in Leviticus is it says that not just that we are commanded to right, to neighborly love our neighbor. It says that we are to ahava in our neighbor. We are to be committed to a higher calling of love than just the, "Oh yeah, we're friendly. It's good to see you. Yeah, sure, I enjoy hanging out with you." We have the prescription, if we are followers of Torah or followers of Jesus, to go above and beyond for those who we find next to us in our community, right? There are two boundaries here. We're not commanded to dod our neighbor, right? That would be a very different kind of religion. But taking away that sensual aspect, we don't have to love and delight and soak in every detail of our neighbor. It can be hard to do that just within a marriage, right? Much less for everyone who is your neighbor. Second boundary that is there is it is for your neighbor. A Hebrew word for neighbor is just the person in the pasture next to you. So you are not commanded as a follower of Jesus to have this committed ride or die, I am there, what is your need, I let me help you, because I know that you will do the same for me potentially, right? We're not commanded to have that for the whole world. We're certainly invited, especially in our era with mass communication, to be globally minded, to chip in, to be educated, to be helpful toward folks all over this planet. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that, that we should be totally insular. However, the commandment that we have in this passage tells us to nurture ahava for our re'ah, that committed ride or die love only for the people next to us. This is doable, right? If you're in a piece of land, hypothetically, you have 4 people around you, you are able to be committed to those 4 families. And if everybody, of course, was doing this in the society the way God designed, everyone would have 4 times the love that they require, that they even need. Here's the real kicker. Here's why I'm talking about this. Ruth's name, is a form of the word re'ah. Ruth is just a feminine evolution of this word for neighbor and neighbor love. So her incredible, where you walk, I walk, where you lodge, I will lodge, your God, your people, my people. If you die, I will die and be buried there. This kind of ahava love is the template for us. Potentially, I'm going to argue that it is, for what it means to love your neighbor in the way of Jesus, her great-great-grandson. I especially think that this is true because she is couple generations back from David, and David's name is actually David, which is also an evolution of the word for dod, that last kind of delighting in sensual love. And so we have this evolution through the kinds of loves all the way down to King David, which then takes us down to Jesus, right? So Jesus is our Emmanuel, our ride, our die, our with us God. He is a model of faithfulness in the footsteps of his great grandmother. Ruth puts on display the character of God for us when he has no reason to open up his arms and forge into the future with us. We have earned nothing. We bring nothing compelling, right? We are just refugees into heaven, trying to claim asylum, trying to beg for resources. God chooses to partner with us, nevertheless, with an incredible, committed ahava love. A challenge for us is to trust in that faithfulness on our behalf, right? Many of us, perhaps, when we're greeted with Ruth's request, with Ruth's great statement of faithfulness, can be tempted to be like, no, I've got it. Just like, give me the one thing that I'm praying for right now, and then I'm better on my own. Like, I don't trust anything. People in my life died, so that's the end of the road for me. We can be more comfortable, even if we fail in our walking and our lodging and our living and our dying relatively alone, than opening up to trust that somebody else wants to be with us. That takes a vulnerability, that takes courage, that takes risk, with the possibility that the person who is trying to partner with you won't do so in the way that you hope. And yet, if we never experience that faithfulness, if we keep our eyes screwed tight shut the whole time, we never allow ourselves to be vulnerable, then we miss out on that beauty of the Re'a love become Ahava love, right? And then we're also pouring from an empty cup, right? If we're supposed to be walking in the way of Jesus, we're supposed to be Ahavaing Re'a. How are we supposed to do that if we are not receiving within ourselves the Ahava love of God as well, right? There's a temptation to try to be good post reconstruction while cutting yourself off from that first love, right? Because it feels still sticky. It feels painful to go back to something that didn't have a happy ending last time. But there's an invitation for us in this Advent season where we re-invite ourselves to meditate on the incarnation of Jesus, that he did choose to come and be with us, to allow that to also be for ourselves, and to experience that for ourselves, not just for the whole world, not just for the justice projects that we're so passionate about, but for us personally and relationally, which is pretty scary. So I'm going to pray and invite us into this journey together, because we're not alone, right? All of us struggle with vulnerability and trust. So, God, King of the universe, I thank you that you welcome us like Naomi. No, that's not right. You welcome us like Ruth when we show up, maybe like the boys in that family, the diseased one and the fainting one. You open up and welcome us into your household with incredible hospitality. You don't demand that we have the right income or the right degree or the right pedigree, or the right amount of success in order for that to happen. You just welcome us. And after we have become part of your household, thank you that there's nothing that we could do, nothing we could believe, no way that we can train your eye away from us. You adore partnering with us. You adore walking with us, so much so that you literally came to earth to be with us and died also on our behalf. I pray that these would not just be facts that we can rehearse, or ideas that we roll our eyes at because we grew up in the church and we've all heard it a million times, I pray that we would be like Naomi, that we would be able to say, I have a need, and I am going to go to the one who is full of hospitality and full of ahava love. I pray that we would also be like Ruth, and her great 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 grandson Jesus, and able to model that ahava love with our neighbors, whoever they might be. That would stay within the boundaries that you have set, but that we would be able to experience the joy that comes with loving and being loved in our communities. So I pray that we would look like your son, but also that we would receive your love in the same way that your son received that love. I pray that we would start to walk in these spunky, chutzpah-y, cheeky, strong, joyful ways of Jesus's maternal line, as he also did. So I pray that your spirit can accompany us in that, because we will not choose to do it alone. And even if we did choose, we would not succeed. So be with us, in us, under us, above us, around us, behind us, and before us as we set off on this quest in this Advent season. I pray all these things in the name of your son, Jesus. Amen. All right, y'all, have a wonderful Christmas holiday season. It has been lovely to pop back on for these weeks of Advent. Reminder that we are going to be doing community events as we actually experience the holidays together, so there won't be videos for those weeks. Have a great end of your year. See you in January. Bye.